And it came from a friend who was a business partner in the Japanese wellness company whose products I used in my pain clinic. I wasn't directly working with him, but I knew of him and respected him. And we had this chance conversation because I heard he had left that company and he had been very, very successful with them. And so I called him and said, "Why, I know why I left, but why did you leave?" And he said, "I don't know what to tell you, doc. People are having amazing results." And I said, "Well, I'll bite. What is it?" And he said, "Redox signaling molecules."
Yep.
And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "They're made from salt water." And I was like, "Oh, the story's getting better and better." And I was like, I live on an island. We're surrounded by salt water. This is going to be a hard sell." And he was like, "This is this is magical. This is salt water from Salt Lake City." I was like, "Okay, there's salt water."
I love that combo too. It's just
Yeah.
you
Like,
can't make it up. Yeah.
yeah, what are they down at the lake with a jug? I don't, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
no, they're selling this. This is insane. But I was curious about redox signaling. And the funny thing, God has such a sense of humor. I'm talking to my sister on the phone. I'm very close with my sister, so we're talking all the time. And I said, "Hey, this guy, Terry Latham, was telling me about this product, and it's made from redox signaling molecules. I've never heard of such a thing." She said, "Well, I have." And I said, no, you haven't." She said, "No, I have." She's a medical editor at my medical school, the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston.
Mhm.
And she said, "We just got a 10.5 million NIH grant to study redox signaling in the body for cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative, orthopedic, diabetes, obesity, aging."
That gotta hurt your ego,
Oh
doctor.
my God, yes, my ego. Yes, thank you, Vera. That's exactly right. Here, Terry Latham, who has a background in like computer sales, and my sister, the medical editor, and I, the physician, know nothing about it. And I was like,
Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances. I have my dear friend, Dr. Maureen Hayes, with me, and it's not the first time, but when I first asked her, it was way at the beginning of this podcast. You can find that original episode. I think it was posted November 23rd on 2022. It's at episode number 4. Way too soon and in between holidays. It wasn't the best idea from me, but I was really grateful that she agreed. But I would love to talk to her again because she's one of the best people to speak on the serious sciencey subjects and always entertaining and wonderful human being. But she's also a medical doctor for more than 30 years. She's board certified anesthesiologist and pain management specialist and a former chief of anesthesiologists at Marlborough Hospital in Massachusetts. But most recently, Maureen also practiced at UTMB in Galveston, Texas, where she lives. And she started integrating alternative and complementary medicine into her pain clinic practice, including acupuncture, infrared, and magnetic therapies, all kinds of different therapies. And she's also certified in age management medicine. But then eventually, we met through the company that I was really excited to be a part of because eventually we both got to point that this was perhaps the most impactful technology that can help people with all kinds of different issues. So, Dr. Maureen, welcome back again. I love that you made time for me, and I promise I won't waste it.
"Oh, it's so great to be here, Vera. Thank you for inviting me back on." And yes, I'm just excited, if not more excited than the last time we spoke. I can't believe it's been a couple of years already.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, listening to you do that introduction, it's so funny because yeah, I've been a doctor for decades, but I actually haven't practiced medicine for the past 15 years. I had, as you were saying, I was looking as a pain doctor. I was looking for alternate ways to help my patients other than another pill or another procedure. And so I was kind of on a quest, and that's why I got certified in acupuncture and learned energy medicine, mind body, things like that.
But
Um,
that's not very typical for classically trained doctor to be looking to alternatives. Why was that?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because, I realized that my patients weren't getting better.
Hmm.
And that, I would think to myself, um, chronic pain means that they're coming back month after month after month, and you're just trying to help them have the best possible life they can, and you're managing their discomfort and their pain and trying to get them some quality of life. And, people would be like, "Can't you take all of my pain away?" And I'd be like, "Yes, but you probably won't be awake, so, you're better."
Oh my gosh.
But I was like, gosh, if it were me, if I were in this position, I would be saying to my doctor, how do I get back to where I was?
Hmm.
What caused this? And how do we fix that? And it just started this sort of alternate journey for
Yeah.
me in that if I wanted to get back to normal, what steps would I be taking? And I used to think about it when I was introduced to the Japanese wellness company that whose products, the magnetics and infrared and all that I used.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, this is interesting. And, it was foreign to the people that I worked with, and they thought it
Yeah.
was, they called it like woo-woo medicine. Now, all of this stuff is mainstream. Everybody's got red, infrared lights and
Right.
infrared, those saunas and all sorts of different things. We now understand that that's important for our health. And of course, medicine is changing altogether because,
Yeah.
when I went to medical school, I had a year of pharmacology, but only one day of nutritional training,
Yeah. It's just insanity. Yeah.
Yeah, we would see what it looked like if you had like rickets or scurvy or, different things like that that were well known from vitamin deficiencies. So that's what I was doing. And what actually happened was we had a hurricane here. I know where you are, you're very used to hurricanes, but the hurricane, it was Hurricane Ike back in 2008, and
Hmm.
it shut our hospital down and it decimated the school where my son was going. And we had the option of practicing. I live on Galveston Island, which is outside of Houston. So my husband, who's also an anesthesiologist, he's a pediatric anesthesiologist and stem cell researcher. He was driving into Houston every day to work there. And I decided to take like a sabbatical because we had a son in high school, things were a mess. And I was like, I'm just going to take some time off till life becomes a little bit more stable. We were out of our house for a number of months and things were really topsy-turvy. It was
Hmm.
crazy. As being in Florida, I'm sure you've experienced that. The whole place was shut down and our hospital was shut down for months, for
Yeah.
ages. When it was time to come back, my husband got deployed back to Iraq. Now he was in the Army Reserves. He retired as a colonel in the Army Reserves. And so I ended up moving to Charleston, South Carolina, where my family is, and just kind of boarding up the house during that time. And I went and thinking that I would, I wasn't going to practice anesthesia because I had not gotten my license in South Carolina, but I was like, I'm going to practice acupuncture.
Hmm.
Interestingly enough, they would not allow me to put little tiny needles into people. You had to have a degree from an Oriental medicine college for that. And it was going to take 4 years to get that degree. And I'd already been through years and years,
Unbelievable.
decades of
Yeah.
schooling and training. But if I got my license, my state license, I could stick huge needles in people. I was like, this is kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Put
But
bureaucrats
anyway,
in charge, and it's always bizarre.
it's always bizarre. There's always bureaucracy. So
Yeah.
that's where I met a woman who had been an anesthesiologist, been a pain specialist, and she went into age management medicine. And I was looking at her clinic, and it was so cool because this is
Hmm.
where people kind of like I was saying, they look for root causes and they fix things so that people age
Yeah.
more optimally. And so when I went back home, and actually I went back home because my husband got sent home from the Army with a medical challenge. And so I met him back in Houston, moved, got everything moved back there. He had to go to MD Anderson, which if you're familiar with that hospital, the kind of diseases they treat. And
Hmm.
he had surgery, chemo, radiation, the whole nine yards, cured his disease, but left him very compromised. He
Yeah.
went from being an athlete. In fact, the way he got diagnosed was he was running 10 miles in a sandstorm and wheezing. And interesting thing, I'll have to tell you another story about that. Somebody had heard, I don't know if I shared that with you, Vera, but I was telling this story to a group, and there was a doctor who had been invited to the presentation by somebody else. And he was like, that story sounds so familiar. I'm pretty sure I know that guy. And
No
it,
way.
yeah, and my husband has a totally different name. I'm
Yeah.
Maureen Hayes and he's Joaquin Cortiella. So, Maureen Hayes wasn't going to give any secrets away, but it turned out he was the physician who took care of my husband in Iraq and ended up
Oh,
saying,
wow. The
yeah,
world
so
is small. Look at
all
that.
world, 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were home and he was really struggling, went from being this, marathon runner, P90X, yoga, doing yoga, all of that, to literally wearing oxygen to watch TV. So this is where we were. And I had come home and I had enrolled in the age management courses to get certified.
But he wasn't that old, right? It's
No, he was like 57, excuse me, 57 when we were going through all of this. I guess I was 52, 51,
yeah.
52.
Oh.
So in any case, and we're struggling with this, he can't really walk across the room or get the refrigerator door open without it being a big to-do. And I was like, oh
But
my God.
considered cured.
Yeah, he was cured for, you know what, when you have that issue,
Yeah.
and a lot of people do, it's just running rampant. I know when I was little, it was like having the plague or something. Now, everybody, the numbers are staggering. But yeah, we're really thankful that he was cured from the disease. But the treatment really left him compromised, and we
Mhm.
didn't know. And we're like, how as two physicians did we miss this?
Yeah.
I guess we just didn't ask the right questions, or you're so focused on taking care of the problem that you're not asking what things are going to be like afterwards, and
Hmm.
the doctors don't have to live with you.
And I'm not sure they really know how your body will respond because everybody may be different too. Depends on many other factors that they
Yeah,
have. Mm.
absolutely.
Mm.
So that's where we were when this technology, redox technology, came into our lives. And it came from a friend who was a business partner in the Japanese wellness company whose products I used in my pain clinic. I wasn't directly working with him, but I knew of him and respected him. And we had this chance conversation because I heard he had left that company and he had been very, very successful with them. And so I called him and said, why, I know why I left, but why did you leave? And he said, I don't know what to tell you, Doc. People were having amazing results. And I said, well, I'll bite. What is it? And he said, redox signaling molecules.
Yep.
And I was like, what? And he was like, they're made from salt water. And I was like, oh, the story's getting better and better. And I was like, I live on an island. We're surrounded by salt water. This is going to be a hard sell. And he was like,
Mm.
this is this is magical. This is salt water from Salt Lake City. I was like, okay, there's salt water.
I love that combo too. It's just
Yeah.
you
Like,
can't make it up. Yeah.
yeah, what are they down at the lake with a jug? I don't, it's like, God,
Yeah.
they're selling this. This is insane. But I was curious about redox signaling. And the funny thing, God has such a sense of humor. I'm talking to my sister on the phone. I'm very close with my sister, so we're talking all the time. And I said, "Hey, this guy Terry Latham was telling me about this product, and it's made from redox signaling molecules. I've never heard of such a thing." She said, "Well, I have." And I said, no, you haven't." She said, "No, I have." She's a medical editor at my medical school, the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston.
Hmm.
And she said, "We just got a 10.5 million NIH grant to study redox signaling in the body for cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative, orthopedic, diabetes, obesity, aging."
That gotta hurt your ego,
Oh
doctor.
my God, yes, my ego. Yes, thank you, Vera. That's exactly right. Here, Terry Latham, who has a background in like computer sales, and my sister, the medical editor, and I, the physician, know nothing about it. And I was like, so I started doing a deep dive. Of course, the first thing I went to was PubMed, which
Hmm.
is kind of like Google for healthcare practitioners. And at that time, there were 6,500 references to
How
redox.
long ago is it? Do you
Oh,
know?
that was like 12 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going back. We're going back a ways. So yeah, so I was curious and I found the science to be very compelling, what I was reading and what I was seeing. And back then, we didn't have a whole lot of studies, but Terry sent me some videos from Dr. David Neiman from the Appalachian State Human Performance
Hmm.
Lab, where they would study different products and the effect on athletes and their performance. And there was some pretty interesting results with the athletes
Yeah.
who were drinking the liquid. All we had back then was the liquid. And basically, they could run further, faster, longer on the liquid or ride their bikes further, faster, longer.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, my husband's an athlete. I wasn't sure exactly what the problem, his was oxygenation. I didn't know how this particular product worked, what the mechanism of action was, but I was like, it's helping athletes. Maybe it'll help him. And so I literally joined to get the best possible pricing. But I told Terry, I am not saying a word to another human being about this. I am not going to any meetings. I'm not learning the secret handshake. I'm just going to see what happens to my husband. So
Yeah.
we on the product, I got on it. My son was home from college. That's a whole nother story. We put him on it. And I was doing my certification, which was a home study, and then I had to go to Las Vegas and do some clinical stuff there. But so that took a number of months. And during that time,
Don't
for,
skip, don't skip over the fact that he was a stem cell specialist in a research for lung development outside of the human body, which is
oh,
mind-boggling on its own.
yes, yeah.
And I remember you saying, and it was hilarious, how he particularly enjoyed the taste of those molecules.
Oh, yeah, no, it was a struggle every day. Every day I would pour it for him, and every day he'd say, "What is this?" And I'd say, "It's the same thing that I poured for you yesterday." And he just carried on like I was killing him.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, "Oh my God." I'd be like, "Put on your big boy pants. This is ridiculous. You're a grown up." And it didn't taste like much of anything to me. It tasted a little, maybe a little salty, I'm not even sure I got the full pool water flavor.
Hmm.
So my son who was in his early 20s, um, it was easy for him to drink it, easy for me. My husband was like rolling on the floor. It's like, ugh, got that stuff. We're all drinking it on your behalf. Drink up,
I'm
buddy.
just seeing it in my mind,
Yeah,
imagining.
yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny how things change because now if we're running, we have to keep a backlog so that we don't run out,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, there have been very few times, usually when traveling, when both of us think the other one packed it, you know,
Hmm.
and, we've been on it for, like I said, over 12 years now. So it takes a while before, if you're not taking it, before you really feel the effects. But we've been on a couple of trips. By the end of it, we're like dragging. We feel like really old people. We're like,
Yeah,
what's
you can feel it.
yeah,
But I interrupted you because you were saying that it took a few months, but did he
yeah.
start feeling the effects?
Yeah, I would say it was about 6 weeks. The first thing that we saw was my son was going through some issues with anxiety and, low moods and stuff. And um, he came bounding into the room one day, and my husband went, what got into him? He literally went from Eeyore to Tigger. He said, and my husband said I could cry. I was like, yeah. And I was feeling much elated.
Hmm.
I actually had been kind of in a funk because my mom had passed away in the
Yeah.
June. We got started on ASEA in November, but in June of that same year, my mom passed away from a similar type of disease that they thought they had cured, and then it came back with a vengeance.
Um,
I was like, come to Texas and we'll take you to MD Anderson and they'll heal you and I'll heal you. I'll help heal you. And somebody called and told me about this product. And I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I
yeah.
was like, thank you, no thank you. I've got this. I'm a physician, la la la. And then my mom died. It was like not that long afterwards.
Hmm.
And so I had been in a funk. I was very, very close to my mom. And, as a doctor, you think that you've got all the answers. You
Yeah.
think you can fix everything. And sometimes when it's just out of your control, it's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
can feel that it's a helpless kind of feel that's
yeah, very helpless, very helpless. And, I just thought later, when we got started on it, to be honest and transparent, I really hoped it. I love my husband and I love my son, but I kind of had hoped that it wouldn't work, that it was just really a scam, because I didn't want to deal with the guilt. and now I look back and I use that as kind of my mission. I think of it
Mm.
as my era of arrogance and ignorance. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was too egotistical to even take a look at it.
And we can never know if it would in fact affect things because who knows
Well,
how far the body was, it's because as you remember, I have a very similar experience when I refused to look at it and then I lost my husband. And I then look back and realize, yeah, if I have looked at it that year ago, December, when he was diagnosed in coming April, I don't know if we would go for it. I
I
don't know
know.
if it would make a difference, but just knowing that you didn't even take a look, that you were so arrogant, like you say, thinking that you know everything, because I was in nutritional field and supplements and stuff, and I thought that I knew everything too.
Yeah.
It's really sad, and also what really is kind of difficult to deal with sometimes. We cannot fully say how impactful this thing can be
Yeah.
because it's a supplement. It's not a medication, so we have to be compliant, and it doesn't heal, cure, diagnose anything. Yet your body, having more of it, can perform incredible miracles that we have seen and witnessed with our own eyes, with people around us. And that's what bothers me, that I didn't even have a chance.
You know what, Vera, yeah, we both have to forgive ourselves. I use it
Yeah.
to kind of motivate me.
Mhm.
My thing is that everybody's going to know about it. What they do with that information is totally up to them.
Yeah.
But you know what? We probably wouldn't have eaten moldy bread either. If you think about penicillin and how it
Hmm.
took for that to be accepted, and that would have sounded really weird too. And
Yeah, it's a hard to change, and plus the education that we were subjected to for last 50, 60 years. What is alternative, which is actually the traditional approach to healing, and what is the true medicine, right? And when you think of it, it's absurdity on its own, but that's where we are. And so people get used to taking pill and something goes away within 30 minutes.
oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
they
the
don't
body.
ever think about the list of side effects that it comes with because it's a doctor gave it to me, so they can't harm me. They don't want to harm me. And of course you don't. And you were in that field. You did the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm doing penance, as we like to say. But yeah, the body is actually designed to heal itself, and we're just giving it tools. We're not, these products are not healing the body. Like you said, it's not a medical product, it's not a treatment, but they are giving the body the tools it needs to repair itself. I mean, it's so interesting because we take so much for granted. If you cut yourself, if you just get like I've got a little cut on my arm. Oh, when I heard the new product really works well on cuts, so I'll put a little bit on.
Yeah.
But it's you fully expect for that to heal up. Maybe it'll get a scab and then it'll fall off and there'll be maybe a little scar and then the scar goes away. That's expected. That's your body healing itself.
Yeah.
And it knows what to do. It has innate wisdom. It's pretty amazing. And so, when it has the tools. Now, the funny thing about these little molecules, because nobody ever talked about them when I went to medical school, that are in these products, is that they're made as part of energy production in the mitochondria or the powerhouses of our cells. And although they knew these little molecules came off, they thought they were exhaust. They thought they were waste products that just were gotten out. They had no idea, the original or early researchers, that they were bioactive. And now we know what they do. That when you have them, they actually turn on different genes in the cell, different genes in the body. It's pretty cool. Um, and they cause sort of cascades to happen. We use some keywords, they're very tiny. And so they're absorbed directly through the cell membrane when you ingest them, or even when you rub them on and they're absorbed. They don't have to go through any of the different proton pumps or, potassium, sodium, potassium pumps, anything like that.
No.
They just go directly through the cell membrane. And once they're in there, they turn on or off things that have benefits to the body. And that causes sort of almost like a domino effect that goes through the
Mhm.
body and leads to increased resilience to stress, including oxidative stress, and that leads to overall wellness. So it's pretty cool.
So is it the main reason why you can drink the same product, the same technology, the redox signaling molecules, and my back pain will go away, but your cholesterol may lower up, or your husband's breathing improved?
Yeah.
How is that possible with one same product?
Isn't that interesting? And and it is funny because we left out the what happened with my husband, after
Right.
just
Yes.
to back up to that. After 6 weeks, I'm going through my certification. And when I got done with it, my husband was not only off of the oxygen, he was doing cardiac rehab, like burpees and things like that. Just unbelievable. My son had a new outlook on life. A girlfriend that I had offhandedly, she was a retired nurse, and she had something, she had had surgery on her wrist the year before, and she was still having excruciating discomfort.
Mm.
And as a pain doctor, I was pretty sure I knew what it was, but she was 1,000 miles away. And I said, get to a pain clinic. But in the interim, she knew my friend Terry Latham. I said, in the interim, Latham told me about this product. Now, this is doctor to nurse, y'all. This is my recommendation. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works, but you've tried everything else. You might as well try this. And if you don't like it, you can get your money back, and I don't care.
Great sales pitch.
Yeah,
Love
yeah, that's a
it.
great endorsement, right? Anyway, she ordered it, and 2 weeks later, she's like, she's just can't believe the effects that it's had. Her hand had been turning colors, had been swelling up. She couldn't make a fist. All of a sudden, she's making a fist. She's writing with that hand. She slept through the night. The discomfort is minimized. Her husband says she hasn't looked that good in months. And so she signs up to join as a member, and she
Mhm.
starts telling people, I'm still not doing it. I'm still waiting. But then my husband has his effect. And I'm like, is this possible? This saltwater product, is this possible?
So
Yeah.
you still didn't know much about it, what it does, or
I,
how the
no, I
body.
had no idea. I thought it was like pixie dust, because here my husband's breathing, her hand, a few other things that people work, my kid's mood, my mood. I
Mm.
was, this is really interesting. And so people would say, is it going to help this? It's going to help this. And be like, I have no idea. Why don't you give it a try? But like you were saying, how does it help so many things? Well, the analogy that I absolutely love is, you have electrical plugs all over your house. It doesn't matter if you plug in a hair dryer or a refrigerator, they're going to turn on. Same thing here. When you turn the cells on and the cells start doing their job, regardless of what kind of cell they are, when they start doing their job and they have the tools to do it, all of a sudden you see things start cleaning up and going back to normal. And it's almost as though people are aging in reverse. It's really, really interesting, but it's foundational.
Love that. Yeah.
Just, yeah, this it's upstream, as people like to say. So like for me, when I was like, okay, how do people get back to normal? Well, if you don't have certain things in place, you're never going to get back to normal. You're never going to get back to the health that you're looking for. And aging is a big part of that. It's really interesting that I did the age management and then came into this. And I decided, when I finished that and I got my certification, I said to my husband, I'm not hanging that shingle. I'm actually going to start educating people about these molecules because I, as a physician, didn't know about them. So I know the people on the street don't know about it. And I think it's their best fighting chance.
Hmm.
You put these things in position, and then everything else you do is going to work better. And so, and I just let people make their own decision. I would
So
educate.
what won you over when you were so skeptical and now you saw these results? And I'm sure before you got involved actively, you wanted to be convinced that you understand what it is and how safe it is for people to try. What was
Well, it was
the
a,
next step for you to kind of convince yourself?
well, it's 100% non-toxic. And if you use critical thinking, which is one of the gifts that you're taught in medical school or, any higher education. And so I was like, okay, here are my questions. Do redox saline molecules exist?
Hmm.
Well, it appears that they did, even though I was not aware of them. There's articles about them, there's people studying them. So, okay, redox saline molecules exist. if they exist, do they actually exist in the bottle that they say?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we know because every single bottle, every batch is certified by a third party. So it comes with a certification on the bottle. So you can see that they have actually measured what we call the potential, almost like a potential in a battery, to say that there's trillions of these little molecules in the
Mhm.
bottle. The third question was, okay, if they exist and they're in the bottle, are they going to work in the body like the ones that our cells
Same
make?
way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, that was the part that I wasn't sure. And I didn't really know how they worked. I didn't know back then, we didn't know that they turned on genes. We just know that some people who had a problem with their knee would drink the liquid and the knee would go away. And I'd be like, this is kind of like magic, but I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people didn't understand how aspirin worked for a long time either. So I was kind of okay with it, but I would say to people, this is not a medical treatment. Go ahead and give it a try. Here's what I know. It works on the cells. It's 100% non-toxic. It's not going to hurt you. It very well may be the answer to prayer.
Yeah.
And there's a 30-day money back guarantee. So what do you have to lose?
But is it 30 days enough for someone to see
Not
results?
to be, not, thank you, not to have your problems clear up. But for some people, if they get it, they're like, oh, this tastes like pool water and I'm not going to drink it. Get your money back, you know? And the company, in a lot of cases, if it's just a case or so, they don't ask you to send it back. So you can soak your feet in it if you don't want to drink it. Or,
Mhm.
and I asked the founder of the company once, why do you do that? That seems sort of iffy or like people could take advantage. He was like, no, we don't see that. He said,
Mhm.
number one, very few people ask for their money back. And when we let them keep the product, if it's a small amount, he said they usually will get around to using it or they'll give it to somebody and the people will have a great result and then they'll call and they'll get back on the product. And he said,
Mhm.
so, it kind of,
Yeah.
it works,
I think
and that,
that's the one thing that is kind of difficult for me sometimes to wrap my head around. So people have the proper expectations. Because back to what I was saying, when we are used to take a pill and something goes away right away. And that's one thing that you focus on, but we have no idea what's going on inside of us and how long it takes after we start feeling something that is something is maybe wrong in the body, right?
oh, really, really good point. Because, you don't feel a lot of diseases and they're growing, like you say, in the body. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you get a diagnosis. And it's like, when did that happen? Well, it didn't just happen yesterday, and you didn't just wake up with it. It's been brewing for some time. And, high blood pressure, blood sugar issues, all sorts of things like that kind of creep up on people. And it's over a series of time, different decisions that you make, and those little decisions add up. So, like when we're talking about the liquid, which is our flagship product and the first one that came out, I ask people to give it 90 days because most of the cells in your body will turn over in that 90-day period. And you want all of your cells to be able to have a full set of building blocks,
Yeah.
right? To have
Yeah.
all the tools to have the best cells. And so a lot of people, about 10% of people will feel something within the first 30 days, 50 within the first, kind of month to 2 months, 90 by 3 months.
Yeah.
And so, getting people through that, having them drink the pool water, twice a day for that time. But it's really an investment in yourself. We
Yes.
take vitamin D, we hear, the reports, we see the studies, we know how it's good. At no time, I take vitamin D all the time. There's not sunshine shooting out of my
Yeah,
pores.
exactly. Yeah, like you don't feel it, but you're still taking it because you know it's good for you.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I take a bunch of stuff that I'm hoping it's doing, I wait for my
Yeah.
labs or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do it because I know it's good for me. Same thing with this, people need to invest in themselves. Our food is not that good, nutrition is not that good. You have to supplement these days. And even as healthy, like take my brother, for instance, one of my three brothers. The one is a bodybuilder. He's practically vegan, all organic, very, very healthy. And he got a really bad prostate diagnosis.
Hmm.
Came to me and he wasn't taking our product because he was too healthy. And
Right.
he said, how did this happen? And I said, well, you own your own company. There's something called stress. I don't care how healthy you are. If you're under stress, it,
Absolutely.
it has detrimental effects.
Yeah.
And then you couple that with a bad diet, pollution, poor soil, fake food, electromagnetic fields, on and on and on and on. Your body is constantly under attack. And so this is one little thing you can do for you and your loved ones. Is it an investment? Yeah. But you know what? When you really look at it, it's not that expensive. And especially with what the company did with that essentials bundle, it was
Yeah.
such a gift because it's, discounted in price and it includes the shipping. So for people who are looking or thinking about getting started on it, and there's enough in there and it's a little bit concentrated that they can truly, if they're on a budget, they could split it with another person and at
Mm.
least get them, the maintenance dose of the redox molecules.
Yeah.
So, I think everybody should do that. I've seen just such miraculous things in my life over these 12 years, and not just for me, not just for my husband and my son, but, the people that we love and care about. They're all
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
planet.
And
And so,
I was once answering question of somebody because I was on a call with Dr. Silverman and we were doing presentation about the proper expectations and how to use it properly so you can see the benefits as soon as possible. And also with the mentioning that your focus is maybe on one issue, that your body may have another idea what is most
oh,
important to address first.
yeah,
Then,
absolutely. It's interesting when we talk about stress. Stress ages you. And actually getting back to age, I think I was starting to talk about this earlier. We all think of age as a natural process, and it is, but because of aging, that causes we lose mitochondria, where these little molecules are made. And when you're under stress, you lose them at a faster rate, a much faster rate, and then they become dysfunctional because of that external stress on the mitochondria. That's why it's important to replenish these. It's
Mhm.
kind of it's kind of like drinking water to, hydrate things and pump things back up. We're hydrating, I like to say it's like a little blood transfusion with redox signaling molecules. Um, if
Into
you
your
see
cells.
that's
Yeah.
wilted or you see somebody who's ashen with a, very pale, and you replenish them, they kind of come back to life. And that's what we're doing with our cells. We're bringing our cells back so that they can do their job.
When you mentioned that, some people look at it as an investment that they may not be willing to make.
Yeah.
And we were talking about all the incredible benefits that you can get from one product instead of 500 different supplements that people take that may be interacting with each other and you can be even allergic to it. And somebody posted in chat, but why is it so expensive? And I was looking at it, and Dr. Silverman was about to answer that question. And I was like, David, would you mind letting me answer it? And he said, absolutely. And I said, I read this, and two things came to mind. Absolutely. It was also expensive for me when I first started on it. That's why I got involved, so I can get my product cost covered, but also realizing how powerful it is. But the second part of my answer is I lost quality of life. I lost my job.
Yeah.
I lost my entire income. I lost later my business. I lost the ability to drive anywhere because I couldn't sit in car for more than 20 minutes after my third back surgery that was supposed to take care of everything. I was never gonna be the same. And when I look at this, that gave me back quality of life within few months. If I don't have anything to eat, this will be always on my table because this is my priority number one. Because that product or technology or my body didn't stop at helping me overcoming that discomfort that was wrecking my life. Didn't stop there. That was just the top of the iceberg. It was addressing so many different things that I didn't even know bothered me. And I'm getting younger and I have more energy and I feel wonderful. I didn't feel like this at my 40s. I'm 58. I
You
I
look like
took
a kid. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Good filters on Zoom, doctor. But I was looking at it, so it is the priorities for everybody. You know, you may be looking at this like $200 is a lot of money a month. Of course, everything is more expensive. I lost $70,000 a year job because I couldn't do it anymore. Look at look at it that way. Being sick is so much more expensive than just medical bills. It affects absolutely everything. So for me, this is safe, can hurt me. I can't be allergic to it. And it only do absolutely positive things in my body and bringing everything to homeostasis. And yeah, I prefer that because I knew with my issues, they will only get worse with age. And everything I tried, including your specialties and all kinds of needles involved therapies and medications and physical therapies and everything, that didn't get me anywhere. And so, I mean, what is that hope that something may finally be resolved worth to you? And
I love that.
it's everybody look at this differently. And of course it's not cheap, but is it cheap when you go to store and you chose to eat healthy organic food? Paradoxically is also more expensive, and it's better for you because you are not exposed to all those pesticides and all the, all the chemicals that comes with regular food. But can you afford it? Well, for me,
Can you
I
afford
don't.
not to, you know?
Yeah, and I don't need expensive purse to get my stats up, or I don't have the newest cell phone. My cell phone is 7. Well, I'm not in the cool club, but
I think
I
mine might
care.
be a 10, but it's cracked. Yeah.
Yeah, I care much more what I put inside of my body than what is shown on top. And it's been working for me very well.
It's a good point. And, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about, people pay insurance, you pay health insurance, you pay your car insurance, and you don't, you're betting that you're going to, say, crash your car, and your company's betting that you won't.
Yeah.
You pay that every month. And, hopefully you're not having any accidents, you're not in an
And
accident.
Florida is expensive.
Yeah, it's pretty pricey here too. What you're paying a month per car. And you're not getting any side benefits with that. If you look at this as sort of an insurance for your health, an
Yeah.
insurance to age well, to, have a fighting chance for everything else that you're doing to work optimally, it's really not that expensive. If you consider
Yeah.
$200 a month, that's your insurance, but what are you going to get with that? And what is it worth? If I said to you, okay, we're gonna help your cells work at their optimal level. And we know from the study that was done about 7 years ago, the Torrent Lab study, they took 60 healthy 35-year-olds and put them on the product for 8 weeks. And what they found was 100% of them, compared to the control, which were drinking salt water, the salt water that our product starts as. So
Yeah.
they got salt water, ours got redox molecules. 100% of them had an increase in gene transcription of 5 major genes that have to do with cardiovascular health, gut health, immune status, inflammation, which is huge, and hormone modulation. One of those genes is very well studied. It's called EGR1, has 15 known pathways, maybe some pathways that we don't yet know about. But some of those pathways include insulin signaling. A lot of people out there with blood sugar issues, thyroid signaling, serotonin, which is why you get that mood
Sleeping.
element, circadian rhythm, so it helps with sleep. A number of other pathways, and one of them is called NRF2, which is a huge pathway for detoxification in the body,
Yeah.
inflammation, and antioxidant activation. And so that's one of the things, that's why we see people's oxidative stress come down, and why we see, different issues, autoimmune, heart, gut, hormonal, all of that starts to kind of regulate. And what I love is, when you look at something like an autoimmune challenge, what is that? That is a miscommunication between the cells.
Yeah.
When you fix that communication, then things start to normalize. Things start to, you're kind of bringing down the temperature on that. And people, just like you said, have a much better quality of life.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is one thing I want to share a picture that you will be very familiar with, and I want you to comment on it because this is what just recently came out of ASEA, that is biotech company who invests millions and millions in research. They didn't get just satisfied with developing these molecules, which was considered impossible by science for many years. But they also 5 years later came up with the solution how to be able to help people put it topically, because people used to spray it on skin because they saw benefits on their skin. But here we are 15 years later, and we came with something that we called next generation Redox. And I want to bring one slide that touches on what you just said, because you will be able to comment on it if I find it. Oh, here we are. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we're talking about the NRF2 and the increase.
That
Um,
touches on what you just said, but the glutathione levels in NRF2, correct?
right. That is our master antioxidant, and that's one of the ones that is activated and increased in production by the NRF2. When we talk about our flagship products, and we have two of them, we had the liquid, and then 2 years after I was involved with the company, they came out with a topical version of the same product. We call that Renew 28. That one has vanity benefits to it. Wrinkles, skin texture, pore size, elasticity. Also takes care of cellulite. So women, especially, were putting it from head to toe. Anything that jiggled was getting some Renew 28. And what they realized was that it was taking away quite a bit of discomfort. Muscles were feeling better, joints were feeling better. Interesting. And so we found that if you applied it and then reapplied it a couple of times, that you got a really pretty good result. Now we've been using that for years. And why is that? Because as I said, one of the pathways that is turned on is the NRF2. That is the one for anti-inflammation, detoxification, and antioxidant activation, like the glutathione. So we like to talk about our flagship products as being kind of broad spectrum, or we use the analogy of a piano with multiple keys.
Yeah.
We had some universities come to us and ask if they could study our products. And one of the things that they did was they were looking for a catalyst to see if they could kind of change the personality or the benefit profile of our products, if it would change or allow them to calibrate how they affected these different pathways. And they found that molecular gold would hone in, take that sort of broad spectrum and hone it in on that NRF2 pathway. So where we get an increase of about 60% in glutathione using, the other products, this is 160%. So just absolutely crazy. And then in damaged cells, up to what is it, 280%.
280%, which is almost bringing it back to the normal level of healthy cell, which is never heard of.
I mean, think about it. If you've got a damaged cell and it's not, it's not really behaving, it's not being able to take care of itself, and all of a sudden you give it something that is allowing it to come back to near normal.
How valuable is that?
Yeah, how valuable is that? And then
And zero side effects.
some people might have a gold allergy, and if you do, you probably know it because you probably have broken out. And we're talking, this is 24 karat gold that they're using, and it's molecular, it's not nano, so it's
Pure, yeah.
to the body, it's not accumulating there.
Yeah.
But
I heard someone say if there is really like a rare occasion that somebody may have be allergic to gold, but it's usually because it's mixed with other metals
yeah, if
and
there's
it's not
nickel or something,
pure. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, of course there is a chance. But the way how is it possible that it took so long to even research and develop the gel Renew 28? Because the molecules in the bottle were existing for 5 years, perfectly fine, stabilized. But to put it in the gel form was like impossible task. Why?
They're very reactive. And so you have to be careful because anything that's organic matter, the molecules are going to work on that. That's why we say to people, there's a couple of different things that they will interact with. One of them being organic materials, the others being metals. So, it took them a while to find a metal, but gold is a noble metal.
Yeah.
They used a couple of different, they tested a number of those noble metals, and gold was the one that did what they were hoping to find. But even with it has to do with ratios, it has to do with is it going to change the behavior of the molecules, interact with what you're mixing them with. So Renew 28 took a while for them to find the correct clay to put it with.
Mhm.
And then they had to help with the pH to make sure that it would be good for the skin and all.
Yeah.
And then of course they came out with the bentonite clay. And that took a while too to have the right mix
Yeah.
so that the molecules would not interact and would not be turned back into salt and water. Because basically, just so you know, because we're talking about salt water and you're like, okay, salt water, how did they become redox signaling molecules? They use electrolysis. So they're injecting salt water. When you dissolve salt in water, it's a very low energy state. Then you drive energy into it. I mentioned before, like a battery. So you're driving this energy into it, and it holds that energy until it goes to work. It's like having a battery with a potential. When it goes into the cells, it gives that energy to the cells in the transfer. Not to get too nerdy or take you back to high school or college chemistry, but it's the transfer of electrons. And
Mhm.
so with that, that's what starts these things. So yeah, so it starts as salt water, but it doesn't end up as salt water. And the process is very precise. It's a certain voltage, a certain time, pH, all of these different things.
Temperatures. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All has to be
Well,
controlled.
it's good to mention that the technology with salt water has 7 patents and over 1,000 intellectual property industry secrets from every step of the way. So we are so far ahead that nobody within 15 years on a market were able to reverse engineer it, which is fascinating.
It's
And
a
now when the science is catching up, finally realizing what we really have our hands on. Here we come with the next generation redox that we are now able to focus the molecules on certain genetic pathways. That's really mind-boggling when you think of it, because all that, and it's still one of the safest thing that I can think of to really use.
And it's crazy effective. This little tube of Redox Gold, I was on the medical board. I've since left that board to be on the global advisory board.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that. Hmm.
yeah, it's something I've been wanting to do for ages. So, I won't say it's not a promotion, but it's kind of something different. I'd been on the medical board for over 10 years.
Mhm.
But it was so cool when I was on the medical board and they were bringing this out, and it didn't look this pretty. It was like in a white tube that said
Yeah.
research product on it. And I have I hate to show my nails because they need to be done, but I have I had surgery on my finger 6, 7 years ago from a cat bite, and it got infected, and so I had to have surgery. And since then, these two fingers, I don't know why this one got in on the act, but this one had the surgery, but these two fingers swelled up and they became like little sausages.
Hmm.
Knuckles became very, very large and knobby. And then it was sort of unsightly. And then it took I don't know where this came from, but my fingers started to really hurt me to
Hmm.
the point that I would just have to hold them. And it had no rhyme or reason, didn't have to do with activity. And so when we were sitting there and they were bringing out this product, I put it on my fingers. And I turned to the scientists. I said, "Is it possible that this is already working?" And they just started giggling. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? How was that happening that fast?" And I mean, this was deep. It was the bone that was bothering me. And
Yeah.
I kept applying it. And I mean, they're not totally back to normal, but for 6, 7 years, they've been fat and knobby. And if if you didn't know and I didn't tell you, you wouldn't look and say, "Oh, I wondered what happened to our fingers,"
Hmm.
because they look pretty normal now. It's incredible. So I keep rubbing it on. And then I have a bad hip that,
That's what I was going to ask because I heard you saying that story.
yeah, now my hip was a different story. In fact, I was talking to one of the scientists, Dr. Borges, and I said, am I the control? She's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm using it on my hip and it's not working. And she said, but it worked on your fingers. I said, yeah, I thought maybe that was placebo. This is what you're going to hear from everybody.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And she said, no, no, it's the real stuff. She said, are you sure you're using enough? Now it's thicker than our Renew gel, so it's
Mhm.
harder to get out. Oh, it's better out of these tubes, but out of the original tubes, it was harder to get out. So I went home and I was very diligent about using it and using it over the whole joint. If you think about a hip joint, it's
Yeah.
fairly big. And so I was not just putting it where I was feeling it, I was putting it on the back, the side, down into the groin. And then I was having some knee issue too that I thought was part of it. So down my thigh and over the knee. Um, After a few days, I was like, wow, this feels really good. I could go up and down the stairs normally. I was walking normally. And then over Christmas, then I ran out. And over Christmas, we went to Disney World, and one night I walked over 20,000 steps. And by the time I got home, I couldn't even bear weight on that bad leg. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just awful. And I've been taking, NSAIDs and all. And I found the tube, which I had not yet thrown out, and I cut it open because our the gels seem to cling to the inside. The company knows.
There's plenty left inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they overcompensate, they overfill them.
Yeah.
But you can cut them open, and I call it the royal jelly. I got the royal jelly. I applied it. The pain was so bad that, I said to my husband, I don't have time to get this hip replaced, but I can't handle this.
Hmm.
I was almost in tears. So I applied the gel twice and it went from what I would say is a 9+, 9.5 plus to 3 in about 15 minutes.
That's pretty significant. Yeah.
And then I applied it one more time and it went to 0 and it stayed at 0 for 36 hours. It came back, but not at a 9.5, at about a 7,
That's the question many people have. This is fantastic example. First of all, there is a possibility that your body wouldn't respond immediately like most people have. But if you repeat it, it has cumulative effect, isn't it? And also it may come back, but it will be coming back in longer periods and in less intensity because it is not only relief, but also recovery. What does it mean?
Exactly. There's a cumulative effect. And we think if you want to use the word healing, I'll let you know. It's interesting because I had been told that I needed a hip replacement and I had had the other one done and the surgeon was like, you'll be back soon. I was like, no, I won't. And then I was like, oh, yeah, he was right. I was wrong. Um, but, I had no time. I have no time in my schedule until April, which is coming up pretty quick. But I don't have discomfort in my hip anymore. But you know what? I am using, like we were saying about prophylactic, about, investing in yourself. I apply this twice a day, regardless of what I'm experiencing it, because I know what it's doing and I know how it's working. And I can't wait to find out, do I still need that? I mean, I don't feel like I need it.
Yeah.
There actual changes on my x-rays? We'll find out. But for right now, my quality of life is good. And I'll tell you, when you have chronic discomfort or you have something that, is not, what, and I was just thinking about it. I haven't taken an Advil. I can't remember when I last took one. Pretty
I don't
amazing.
even have one at home. I haven't needed it for 4 years. And doctor, I just did number on my back last few days because I had some, insane idea that my house is dirty and needs some deeper cleaning. And I jumped at it. And for me, living after 3 back surgeries with fusion, the last one, and being really in significant chronic discomfort, for me to vacuum the house would mean that I will be in a few days of really struggling to even get off the chair. Like that was normal for me. And that is not the case since I am on Redox. But this time, because I feel great, I kind of overdid it. I was really like, I vacuumed the whole house, I made everything, washed the floors, washed the lanai that has really difficult tiles to get to. And there was some really, so I grabbed the, brush and stupid me. Well, I could feel that. It was really like slightly, but it was not as normal, like swing right back to where I was. So I started using gold and it wasn't really doing anything right away. And I just kept applying it like every half an hour. And next day, that spot was gone, but another one appeared on the other side. And it's like, it's playing games with you. And it is like, okay, so you have to pay attention to this spot too, because you screwed up your back.
Yeah.
And so I started applying it there, but I woke up next day and it was completely gone. So it may take time and it may take more applications for your body to respond properly. But to have this and not to have to go for pills or steroids or something that is invasive for the body. And it also masks the symptoms only, right? It doesn't do anything.
And and I'll tell you, I don't know if you noticed, I was putting it on my face. This does not have any vanity benefits other than it's shimmery. It's got some gold in it.
Oh,
But
well, you never know. We may discover new functions with.
yeah, but they said that they've done some studies with, they have that machine that they use for our skincare products that shows if it's moisturizing or helping with wrinkles or whatever. But I'm very sensitive to chemicals, and there's something for some reason in my condo. It's happened 2 days in a row where I start to react and I can feel myself getting stuffy.
Hmm,
Yeah, almost like an allergic reaction to something. And so I just took the gel and I just rubbed it right here on my cheeks, like under my eyes, and all of a sudden it's clearing up. And I'm like, that's interesting. I've had some really interesting responses. I woke up one morning with a really sore throat and it was really red and inflamed, and one of my tonsils looked bad, not streppy, just
mhm.
and had some tenderness in the nodes in my neck. And I used the gel. I was traveling, so I used this like under my jawline and down my neck. 10 minutes later, I had nothing. I was good to go. It's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Crazy. It's crazy. What
But
is your best testimonial so far? The best like surprising response of someone? Because I'm assuming you put it on different people.
yeah, I've put it on so many people. It's almost I'm more surprised when people say it's not working.
Yeah,
And I'll be like, hey, hang in there. It didn't work. I didn't think it worked either. Keep doing it. But you brought up something before with your back and the different areas. You have to put it where it hurts and where the hurt's coming from. And sometimes it's what we call referred discomfort.
yeah,
And so if you have issues and maybe they're not, like maybe your leg is hurting and it's not going away, put it up and down your spine too.
correct.
So
Yeah, great point.
get
Excellent point.
everything that's
Yeah.
involved. But I'll tell you one of the ones that really touches me is my stepmother. She's in her 70s, and her ankles have, like, she's like flat-footed and her ankles have like collapsed. It makes it very hard for her to walk. And she's married to my dad, who's like 92. He loves the gold too. He says it only works if I pay for it, but it's okay. At 92, I'm going to send it to him. But he's been using it on his knees and getting great relief. But he was telling me that my stepmom is using it on her ankles, and it's been like a gift from God. It's she can't have surgery done because she takes care of my dad. My dad's not that mobile at his age anymore. Um, but she's getting so much relief from it, and she's able to walk and she's able to do daily things. You guys, to give people back their mobility, to give them back some autonomy, to give them some quality of life. You know what? That's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, for me, that's always been my mission as a physician, is to help people have a better quality of health and a better quality of life. And with these products, we're doing it without any side effects, without any black boxes, without any warnings. We're just doing it naturally, helping the body to heal itself.
Yeah. It's spectacular. And sometimes I talk to people that say, "Oh, I have seen these things before." You haven't. This
Not
is
that,
this did not exist.
no. This is a miracle. And, it is really such a gift that we have our hands on it because it just, I feel incredibly blessed to be a part of this company and to be able to have the honor to tell people about it, especially with my previous career. It just blows my mind. And, you don't have to be a doctor or a healthcare provider or even a nutritionist. You
Yeah.
just have to be somebody who's willing to talk to other people and to serve them and to help them learn
And
about.
with this gel, actually, it is really so much easier because when we talked before about the proper expectations, yes, it may take time if you start taking it internally because it goes everywhere.
Right.
But you can prove it to yourself within few minutes if you apply topically the gel.
I don't think I showed that cut on my arm before. I said I had a little cut on my arm. I was going to put the gold on it. The cut is still there, but all the redness is gone. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah,
Crazy,
yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
It's incredible and it's safe. And for me, it's my perspective when I was left after my surgery was that I will be on more and more medication because once you are on one or two, eventually they create side effects that you need more medication for those that you never had issue with. And I just didn't want that future because I knew I didn't want to be on medication long term. Of course, there's occasions when it's absolutely necessary, but not for discomfort for me. I would rather learn to live with pain, which I did, but having something on hand that I can use as many times as I need because it's not toxic, and my body actually it puts attention in my body to where it needs to work. So my body does the work, which is absolutely spectacular. That was always what I was looking for. And unfortunately, even with the food and supplements, all of them are to trigger something in the body. They are not native to you. You don't grow blueberries, however they are fantastic and antioxidant, but we do create these molecules inside of our cells, and that's what makes it so unique, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we're just replenishing it. We're just putting back what needs to be there. It's just like a tree that's wilting and you give it water and it springs back to life. That's kind of a great analogy.
Yeah.
Just putting things back to where they're supposed to be. And the body does it all. It's truly a miracle. Well, Vera, this has been
Fantastic. Yes.
time has just flown by, so of course the two of us could talk about this forever.
I
So
love it because you have such a great perspective on it, and especially because you are a medical doctor. You did your best in your career to help people with the tools you had, but you hit the wall because there's only so much you can do with the traditional methods, and you didn't see significant improvements. But how is it different now? To just end on that
hey,
note.
you know what? I enjoy my life so much. In fact, I'm renewing my license. Um, my husband asked me to in case we want to do medical missions or whatever, and so I'm
Mm,
going through all the CMEs and stuff like that. And my sister said, will you ever go back into practice? And I was like, I don't have a reason to. I
mm,
feel very fulfilled personally, professionally, financially by sharing this, educating people about this, changing people's lives, seeing what happens to them when they embrace it. And, from going from not wanting to tell anybody about it to I have a moral obligation as a physician to having it spread all over the world on my team, which would just blew my mind and, replace my medical income. And I'm like, this is a wonderful life. You're doing good. You're making a living, like Trish Winkler says, making a living while making a difference.
yeah.
And I wake up every day and think what an honor it is to be able to do this. Just love it. So,
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I knew you will get the right shine on things that are important, and it's meaningful to me too, because if I missed my boat with being not being able to help my husband with all the knowledge that I had, I'm making sure now I really tell everyone who needs to know. And if they decide that it's ridiculous and they don't even want to look at it, that's on them. nothing we can do about that. Everybody has their own agency to decide. But for me, it's important that people know, because I didn't know about this. And I was shown, and I didn't even bother to look at it because I found it ridiculous. So just like you, even though I'm not a doctor, I had a tendency to dismiss everything that I didn't already know, which is
Yeah.
so
It didn't come
small-minded,
through the right
unfortunately.
channels. You know, and another gift is meeting people like you, Vera. You and I probably would never have met.
I
I'm in
know.
Texas, you're in Florida.
True.
Yeah. And you know, that's one of the biggest gifts is the family, we're not on the same team, if you will.
Yeah.
We're all in the same family.
But we are so connected and on many, many different levels, not just about
Yeah.
this. But if anybody is curious how we met, there is a hilarious story at the beginning of that first podcast that we recorded. It's episode number 4. Don't miss it, because that's
It is.
that's one reason why I love her so much. I seriously love you, Maureen, and I'm this mischievous body cake when she's on serious calls talking about serious science. I bombard her with
I know,
funny text,
I know. We have such a great
and
relationship,
I
and
love it. I love it.
I love you too, girls. So
No,
thank
and
you so
I'm
much.
really grateful that you find time for spreading the word, because I know you have your own things to do and you have busy schedule, but I so appreciate it, and it's important we talk about it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.